So, Diego, we are back with our podcast.
It's been a while. We could perhaps entertain the idea of doing a podcast about why there was no podcast in the last few months.
Yes.
But I guess we apologize to our listeners. But we will make it up to you. Don't worry. We have some good topics coming up on the show. And anyway, how have you been? I mean, I know how you have been, but for the listeners, Rasheed moved to Madrid a year and a half ago, more or less.
No, it's been 2 years.
2 years now. 2 years. You're dealing with winter now, which is different, let's just say, to being 40 degrees Celsius warm in the summer. But you're here now. You know all the food. You're starting to get acquainted with the city. How's the experience been? Because it's 2 years, my friend.
Yeah, I know for a fact it's been 2 years, 2 months, and 15 days. Reason why I know that exact number is like yesterday, I was checking my social security account.
Yeah, I was sure that this was tax related.
So, because it gives the exact time where you sign up for the account.
Yeah. But you wish you didn't sign up for Social Security in Spain if you could opt out.
Yeah. Oh, yes, indeed. So I know the precise dates. It's curious because I think now it feels more like home.
Yeah.
I think the first year, even the first year and a half, it feels, I am in a foreign country. I am a new person to the country type feeling. I think now it feels like, okay, I live in Spain and I go to other places and I come back to Spain, come back home. So I'm quite happy about that. My husband also is now feeling the adjustment as well. I thought it might take a bit longer. No good reason why I thought it would take longer, but I can definitely feel, okay, we are living in Spain now.
Well, I was recently quoted at the Wall Street Journal for the numbers I've run on how many people in Madrid are not Madrid born. And that number is actually really high. If you speak about currently employed people in Madrid, that is 53% of them who were not born in Madrid. So it's more than half of the currently active population in the region and the city that were not born here. They either come from other territories in Spain or other countries. You yourself, you're a Barbadian man that was living in Panama and the US before coming over. I am not from Madrid. I am from the northwest of Spain, from a very small and beautiful town, Santiago de Compostela, which you're still to visit somehow.
Yes, that's true.
It's a point of contention here between us when we're off the mic. Just remind me of an anecdote with the day counting thing. I know some YouTubers, their podcast is clearly doing well because they moved to Andorra to pay less taxes, right? Yeah. Andorra is a very small country. I think it's like 50K, the size of its population. Really small, 50,000 people, something like this. And it's up in the mountains in between Spain and France. And just because he needs to keep tally of how many days he spends in the country to not be targeted by the Spanish tax authorities, he has a physical calendar at his place. And anytime he leaves the country, he comes back with a big bunch of tickets and receipts to justify everything. But everything he buys locally, even if he just went, he makes sure to always buy something, even if it's a lazy day and he's staying home in his pajamas, go down to the grocery store and just buy a bottle of water, but get a ticket because the Spanish tax authorities can be ruthless. You spend just one more day in the country than you're supposed to.
That's pretty crazy. I'm sure at some point we'll get a more detailed conversation on the Hacienda issue.
Oh, yeah. Do we want to? Because they're listening right now.
Oh, my goodness. And it's curious in one sense, too, because I sometimes joke, I think often, that I don't meet any people from Madrid. I meet people who live in Madrid for many years, but their parents not from here. They don't have the very stark Madrid accent, gato accent.
Yeah.
And
which is just a J with a it's like that's what the accent. That's what Madrileans look like when you find them. Sound like when you find them.
They're very rare. And also the Madis, he's very
the theta, the Z.
Strong Z at the end of the word. There's no actual Z at all.
Yeah.
But that's pretty funny.
We call those gatos, like you said, which is cats. And a cat would be someone all of your grandparents are from Madrid. That's what you would consider to be gato, like truly 100% Madrilean. And yes, you don't come across many of them. But at the same time, like think of myself and some of the group of friends that I had from the get-go after I moved in here. We're turning a bit older now. We're not so young anymore. And we are 37. That's my age. And we moved here when we were 18. So we're kind of pushing to a point in which we've spent half our lives here in Madrid.
True.
So you certainly feel like one, but it's true. We come from all over the place. Madrid used to not welcome foreign population at all, but neither was it a place where other people moved from. You visited, but that was it. This all shifted when the free market reforms happened and a lot of economic opportunity created, a lot of cultural development happened as a positive development on the side of that economic growth. And now it just makes sense to just move to Madrid. That's where things happen locally.
I was in the Canary Islands this weekend, as you know. I was speaking with someone, Gabriel, and he mentioned that when he first went to Madrid back in, I think he said 80s, he was surprised because Las Palmas in Gran Canaria had more infrastructure and more technology than in Madrid. He's like going from essentially a outskirts island to the capital. You would think it'd be a big improvement, but at that time he said he was shocked because it was less than Canary Islands. That's a stark reminder how fast things change.
It is because there are some critics of tourism these days. And I say that's a good problem to have. Of course, you have to deal with it because it's nonsensical in many cases. But it's a good problem to have because Madrid had no tourism at all. So it just shows you that with new gains come also perhaps some new pains. But no one was really concerned with visiting Madrid like just 40 years ago. I must say, however, that I think the city was punching below its weight because it has a lot of history. It has a lot of appeal, and it just needed the proper policy mix to reflect that. And over time, the city has even surpassed Barcelona in the number of visitors that come over. I think that's saying something. The output of the region is larger than Catalonia. That's the region where Barcelona is the capital. In spite of the fact that Catalonia has 1 million more inhabitants. So the numbers speak for themselves. But it's true that if you go back to Madrid in the 1980s, the city was like a boring, bureaucratic, administrative place, which was kind of dirty, drug-ridden. In fact, there was a lot of issues with drugs in the 1980s and not a lot of good news coming out of just rampant addiction to heroin and whatnot. So things have changed a lot, and it's a lot more cosmopolitan place now. And I mean, it's just one of the many that have come and stayed, for which I'm very happy, by the way.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So we actually have a topic for this episode, and
what did you do? Confess, where did you go last May?
So I went to my first bullfight. Ooh, the bullfight. And it's funny because bullfighting is obviously one of these stereotypes that me, grew up seeing on TV. All these strange Spanish people with this cape and this bejeweled gown and these elaborate hats, things like that. And it's very cartoonish. I found it first maybe on Buzz Bunny on the cartoons back when I was like 10 or 5 or whatever. And I always knew about it. So I'm like, well, given I'm here, given I have a new friend that's very into bullfighting.
I must confess.
That I think it's time to just go. And what a revelation that was. And we're going to discuss that for sure.
Yeah, I was just thinking that if you name drop this, if you just put this out in conversation in the 1960s, for example, in the US, that would be considered a very natural thing to do, right? There's pictures of Frank Sinatra in 1960s Spain where Ava Gardner, she ran off. She was angry at him and she came over and she discovered the world of bullfighting, which she fell in love with. So did Rita Hayworth and many of the key actresses of her time. So did Orson Welles and Ernest Hemingway and many of the most relevant journalists of the era. At that time in pop culture, that was a very interesting time in which, Hollywood stars and writers and everyone was just coming to Spain to see it live. And they wanted a piece of the action and whatnot. And still today, when you poll people worldwide about Spain, it still comes across one of the top 10 things that pop up in the collective mind of the world.
I think for sure it pops up, but I think it pops up for legacy reasons. But no one really knows anything about the bullfighting besides guys there, elaborate outfit, the bull dies.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And that
happens in Spain.
And that's quite neutral because for Anglo-Saxon audiences, I think most of the perception that is derived from that is very negative. So the animal rights movement and everything around it have positioned bullfighting as a form of animal cruelty, which is a reason why anytime bullfighting is discussed in Anglo-Saxon cultures, not anytime, but very often it's painted in a very negative light. Not necessarily the case with other countries or territories, which just presented a more legacy type of institution or culture, like you said, but that has also made a mark. That is why a debate like this, because we're speaking in English and because we know there are American listeners, it can pop up emotion from the get-go. There's people that may be drawn to it, and there are people that may just be tempted to just turn off the episode right now. So I think I am a big bullfighting aficionado, but today I'm just trying to take that hat off to the highest degree that I can and just have this conversation for those that want to know and that may only have that more simpler and also sensical knowledge of it, which is, okay, there's a guy in an elaborate dress, there's a bull, and the bull would die at some point. And that's what I know. And that's what most people know from a bullfight.
Okay, so I want to talk through the entire experience because best analogy I have here is a church or religious festival. In the sense that you can go into a new spiritual or religious festival and as an outsider, and there's so many things happening. Symbolically, everyone knows what's going on and you are completely lost.
Yeah.
That was my exact experience. Clearly, there's a lot there that needs to be unpacked.
A lot.
And I want to start even from the literal entrance to the plaza.
Well, the plaza is the bullring.
Right.
And it's the most visited place in Madrid if you check for Instagram pictures. After the Santiago Bernabeu Stadium, which is the Real Madrid football stadium, where for NFL fans, that's where the game that was hosted in Madrid was celebrated. That's where it took place. But right after Santiago Bernabeu, more than any other monument or street or just any other famous spot, any square, whatever, it's the Las Ventas bullring. If you want to visualize it, just Google that. Las Ventas. That is the Plaza de Toros, the bullring in Madrid, which is of neo-mudéjar style, and it was built 100 years ago, roughly speaking. So it's a century-old bullring. So you walk into the arena, and you just brought up the similarities with religion, or at least the cultural aspects of religion. And that's interesting because sometimes when bullfighting is discussed outside of Spain, it is labeled a sport, and it is not. We consider it to be...
not.
No. And those that critique bullfighting would not argue that. It is not a sport. It is not a competitive sport. It is rather a form of art that is done publicly, that has some elements of sports performance, because, of course, there is an animal there that is lively and dangerous. There is a man there who is trying to deal with that live in front of your eyes. So it can resemble a sport in a way, but everything that you're looking for here, it's come and derived from the world of arts, not from the world of sport, in spite of the similarities, in spite of the fact that these folks are well-conditioned and what.
Seems like a stretch, but we'll get there. I'm sure you can justify yourself by that analogy. But okay, coming into the stadium, or maybe not the best terms, plaza.
Which seats 24,000 people.
24,000.
And it's sold out on like 30 afternoons straight in May, which is very hot. And you're supposed to dress up.
So yeah, okay. This was a surprise to me. Luckily, I asked you. I don't think you actually told me what to wear. So I asked you, Diego, what should I wear?
Yeah.
I don't know why I asked that. I actually don't even know why. I just thought there must be some code of dress.
Yeah.
Luckily, you told me. And I thought I arrived and people actually are dressed up. Suits, so not suit, like a jacket, a blazer, nice white pants.
Yes.
The ladies are wearing like dresses. I'm like, this is not what, again, it's like going to a church.
Yes.
It's not what I expected. In my head, I was thinking a sporting event. Of course, you don't agree with that analogy. But in my head, I'm going to a sporting event in kind of a hot day, and people are dressed up like if they're going to a church.
Or a gala or some sort of cultural event. That's the vibe that you get immediately, is that people have dressed up for the event. And
even the young people.
There is a lot of young people too. Yeah. I was thinking we'll probably discuss this at a series of points in our conversation today, because that is one of the remarkable sides of this tradition, that it attracts a young crowd and that it is far from being unpopular or over. Now, in spite of what people may hear outside of Spain, I am aware that animal rights campaign against bullfighting outside of Spain as well. So if bullfighting is on the decline, for example, they will make sure to, just transmit this narrative that the tradition is dying or whatnot. But it's not the case. The activity levels are some of the highest that have been recorded in history. And the attendees, like you said, are young people in a mature, developed, rich economic capital.
Yep.
And these are sophisticated folks that are coming out of the office or maybe from home. But this is just a day in the middle of the week because, by the way, this goes from Tuesday to Sunday for 1 month straight. So that's essentially 30 almost straight afternoons in May. And then the whole year through, you also get 50% capacity for any given Sunday. And then you once again in October, you get the filled up stadium. 100% of the seats are sold once more in the September and October combinations. So these are young people showing up en masse and well dressed.
Well, yeah, that still sticks out in my memory as a key thing. You know, it's funny, even when you go to the music stadium, the music hall for classical music, the Auditorio Nacional in Madrid, there are not that many young people by proportion compared to the bullfighting. And then the young people that go, they don't even dress as well as if they're going to the bullfighting. So again, it's the mental model you have or you would have had about those two environments just shattered when you actually see them firsthand.
Yeah, and I think that in the case of Madrid, because it's such a large arena, you get even less of a dress up that you get in other cities.
Oh, really?
Yes. So if you think people dress up in the bullring in Madrid, which they do, but try going to Sevilla. If you go to Seville in Andalusia, that's the epitome of dressing up.
Interesting.
So you're absolutely right.
What is the difference in how they dress between
Well, women could just very well be dressing these flamenco dresses that are very popular on social media these days.
Right,
When Americans find out of the Feria de Abril festivities, they're just fascinated by it. And even the suits for men have a special type of colorings, different. You go with maybe a Havana type of colors. White can be used for blazers. And the hats, too, are very colorful.
I actually do plan to go to the fair in April next year. First time going, obviously. And so I need to get some correct outfits for that.
Oh, yes. We will get you fitted and post some pictures. And that is something that I guess shows you that there is a social event around it. And ideally, when you're going to a bullfight, you spend the whole day revolving around it. Now, that doesn't necessarily happen in the case of Madrid because the Feria, which is the main combination, which happens throughout the whole month of May. It's impossible to stop your life 30 afternoons almost straight every single day except for Mondays for 1 month and just to make it all about social and casual meets with your friends and just attending these events and whatnot. But still, the idea in everyone's mind when you're going to a bullfight is that, okay, we'll probably grab a very large and strong lunch. We'll probably smoke some cigars. We'll probably have a drink or two. Then we'll go and pull up to the arena. Maybe in a horse carriage if you're in Sevilla.
Is that true?
that is a 100% true. Like the bullfight begins in Sevilla, it's at 6 these days, and they changed the schedule. So I mean, Sevillans are very Sevillans. So if I'm getting something wrong, folks, forgive me and let me still enter your city, which I love. But they're very local, very peculiar people. I like them, by the way, but it is true. And so the bullfight starts at 6, so you will see how the horse carriages start pulling up at different areas of the city 1 hour and a half before, just so that people can get on the horse carriage and get.
That is wild.
You cannot do that in Madrid because, I mean, you can't just have the horse carriage in the middle of the street. But some bullfighters do. And my favorite bullfighter, who just retired in October, Morante de la Puebla, he was featured extensively by the New York Times in a very good article about his goodbye. So you can Google that. Morante de la Puebla at the New York Times, and you will come across some amazing photography and a very good explanation of his career and his goodbye. This man has been dealing with mental health for all of his life, and he said goodbye for now, so he's planning to come back, but deals with severe depression since he was very young, very, very young. He's gone through electroshock therapy, which is still a thing in psychiatry this day, although it's not what it used to be. What you think of a Shutter Island type of experiments, that's not it these days. And he will pull up in old horse carriages to the arenas, or he may pop up in a old 1940s car. So even in the drive to the arena can be a fun experience in many cases.
Okay, so
we're up there now. So
yeah, we're inside now.
So we've had lunch.
Okay.
We've had the cigars, the first one, because then we'll have one in the arena. But we smoked the cigar. We've drunk a couple of drinks, not beer, right? Like something, probably wine from Jerez, also, cherry wine.
There was wine being sold like in the near the seats in the
in the stands.
Yeah, the
right?
stands. Yeah.
There's no popcorn.
Oh, there's wine.
It's like jamon or wine, right? And now we're at the place. And by the way, the place, beautiful as it is,
Yes.
it's not comfortable.
No. Okay, so hold on.
It's uncomfortable.
Now, okay, so I was also not prepared for that.
Yeah.
So I walked in. Luckily I found my seat quite easily. I used the chat GPT. I sent a picture of the stadium. I was like, I'm in this seat. How do I get into the stadium? Where do I go? And it told me the exact door and the exact stairs to go to. So I got my seat quite easily. Thank you for technology. And
because I did warn you.
Yeah.
I did warn you. Show up early. Because what would you normally? You just call it rows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yep.
Seats 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'd be it. Now in bullfighting seating, there's different arrangements.
Crazy.
The naming is different. So I'm not surprised you had to. But I'm surprised that chat. I'm just very good. That shows you artificial intelligence is legit. When you can get seated quickly in a bullfight.
You were shocked when I told you how. I told you I found my seat very easily. You were like, what? How? I told you I use a chat GPT. You're like, oh, that's crazy. But yeah, it worked out. Okay, good. So I got in and I got to my seating quadrant and I saw these people buying a cushion or rented a cushion from the cushion rental.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what this will do, but I trust I see a whole crowd doing it. Let me get one anyway.
Yeah.
Luckily, I got one and then I got it to my seat. I was like,
I can't believe that means you had cash.
Yeah, okay.
Because you never do. And those are cash only.
Okay, so here's the thing. In my wallet, I always have a 10 euro note.
Yeah.
But I thought for emergencies. I don't know what you need 10 euros for an emergency, but in case, I always have one in my wallet.
Okay, good.
I had it that time.
So the emergency note was...
Yeah, essentially. It was like...
why you could sit...
Yeah, it was like 25 cents, I think, for the...
Yeah, because you rent those cushions.
Yes, exactly.
I own my own cushion, which was
of course.
Like, it was a birthday gift from my wife. It's like tailor-made, and so it's a little thing in itself. But for any non-regular attendee, you just rent one.
Okay, but here's the thing. Here's the funny thing, Diego. I also own a cushion.
Yeah.
For a similar reason. Because when I go to Bachfest...
Yes, you need one too.
The old seats in the churches are the same kind of ideal. So I have my own cushion for Bach Festival that literally it's that same thing that you would use, say like fold in half type system.
Yeah.
That you would use in the cushion for the Plaza for Toros.
So then next time you come over, you don't need to rent.
If I had known this little detail, Diego, I would have brought my cushion from Germany, that I use for Bach.
Yeah, the horse racing crowds also use those here in the stadiums where you have the horse races. Hipódromo, you call it in Madrid. That's where the horse races are held, and those are the stores where you can also buy these cushions. My wife got it from me from a horse racing store, which is next to our place, and also next to the former place of the Secretary General of the Socialist Party, who is now in jail. But that will come on a different episode.
Yeah. So I digress. We have the cushion. So I rent the cushion. I also got a cup of wine, as one does.
You're natural.
Very blended.
But no one told you to do this. So there must be something.
Just following the crowd.
Yeah, but there is that shows you there's something that just comes along with attending that you don't work out many of the things you're seeing, but just the atmosphere is drawing you into understanding what you're doing.
Correct. So that's how I did that. So I got to my seat. I wedged myself into the seat because it's so narrow. Mm-hmm. So narrow, your feet are so uncomfortable. Extremely. There's no room to put your feet anywhere. And I'm like, am I the only one seeing this? Yes, I was the only one seeing this. Because everyone around me, like older guys that are clearly there for like 50 years, come from the same area. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, there's no way to sugarcoat that. It's uncomfortable. That's why I was just throwing it out there. The building is uncomfortable, and there should be, in principle, everyone agrees that theory suggests that the arena should be reduced in terms of the capacity that it's allowed to hold. But the problem is you would be leaving people out. Mm. And there's this general consensus that, okay, do we want to be left out? No. We want us to be seated and we want to access the arena. So we would be losing 5,000, 6,000 seats on a 24,000 arena if we were to have a regular situation with the seating. If that means I'm less comfortable for the event, so be it.
Well, clearly people aren't minding it that much. They still go all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're in...
But no one is comfortable. No one, just to clarify, no
one anywhere.
Yeah, it's just packed to the roof. People are hanging from the ceiling.
There are no like better seats.
Yeah. No. There are better seats, and we could give suggestions if everyone needs them when you attend. But it's just a matter of, it's different shades of gray, but still uncomfortable.
Okay. So another thing I noticed very quickly, again, people are dressed well. There are surprisingly high proportion of young people. Okay, we've covered that. Another thing is that there are actually a lot of women I didn't really expect to see.
You thought it was a sausage fest?
Yeah, potentially.
Well, there's more men than women.
Yeah, for sure.
But the breakdown is probably 60 to 40. Roughly speaking. However, when you do see the intellectual and the communities around bullfighting, people who attend book launches or debates about different elements of bullfighting and so on, there you do find a more predominantly male crowd. So the hardcore fan base is definitely skews male, but when you're in the arena for the event, you wouldn't really know that because it's quite a 60-40 split in this case. And a lot of them are young too. So that shows you that young women also like it. It's not just their moms.
What I can tell is that a lot of couples go together also. You can tell by how they interact.
Yeah. Well, this last San Isidro, I saw a engagement happened in the middle of the bullfight. So that was kind of very American for my taste. But people did react positively to it. So
okay,
I'll accept it. But yes, and let me tell you, there's a lot of flirting around bullfighting. You can clearly see how people meet around the culture too. After the event, when the bullfight is over, flamenco music is played and also just more regular Latin music, something you can get down to, like reggaeton or whatever. That is also played live by bands that are hosting a post-show type of parties in the arena. And many people that attend together have probably met there or have cemented a relationship around the bullfighting circles. That is also quite interesting. It's not only that you take your girlfriend or a girlfriend brings her boyfriend into the arena and that's it. It's rather than many of them have probably met over their shared passion for that.
So you mentioned the bands. Another thing that really surprised me were there are bands in the stadium, in the stands, near to me, like very close to me actually, playing music and essentially sound effects. Things that happen. So what is up with that?
Okay, there is a musical genre for bullfighting and it's called paso doble. So you can Google that and listen to some of it. And it is the sort of music that you play as the bullfight is going on. Now, each bullring is different. And the Madrid bullring is known for being extremely demanding performance-wise. It got to a point, this happened ages ago, but it got to a point that people were not agreeing in the stands, more than half a century ago. People were not in agreement whether the music should be playing or not because they were not in agreement of how good or bad the Matador's performance was. So the call was made to, okay, from now on, no more music in the Madrid in the middle of the performance. So it's in between, but not in the middle of the performance in Madrid. So Madrid is actually quite quiet because in other bull rings, this band that you saw would be playing in between each performance. The 6 of them, 6 bulls are run each afternoon. That would mean in between the 6 bulls and right at the beginning and the end, you would hear it. So that factors to 8 pasodobles. But in other arenas, if the performance is good, so let's just give that 4 are good out of 6, you would hear 4 times more the band and you would be hearing the band as the performance is going. That's why that music was originally scored. It was meant to be played as the performance is going. If you think the Madrid bullring is musical, just imagine Sevilla or other bullrings in which the music plays almost the whole afternoon through. And then there's very festive bullrings like Pamplona, where the running of the bull happens in July. And there it's not just the formal band that is playing, but also people bring instruments with their friends and just starts playing and singing whatever they feel like singing because it's a party. So in these very festive bull rings, it's music all afternoon long, and it's just the formal band and the informal band that people put together.
It's a very Caribbean vibe, like during carnival.
Carnival, yeah,
exactly. It's right.
Exactly. The first bullfighting gathering of the year happens in Carnival in the province of Salamanca. That connection is there. As much as there is elements of religion in this, it is also religion has traditionally opposed bullfighting because the Vatican tried to ban it several times, but Spaniards wouldn't listen.
Right.
And then some monarchs did pay attention to it and did try and pass the ban with pressure from the Vatican. And then the governors wouldn't comply because they were like, okay, I can probably get many things done and I can get away with them. But if I prohibit bullfighting, I'm getting thrown out by the people and I don't want no revolution. So keep fighting those bulls.
Okay. So the music was a big surprise to me. Now, I have some observations and questions of the actual bullfight itself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how to phrase those, but one thing I want to get to is, I think, the single strangest thing that I saw, to you might not be strange. I think it was after the bullfight, even after first or second bullfight, the bull's already dead. And the entire crowd just pulled out a white handkerchief and started chanting something in unison. I was like, what is happening? Your 24,000 stadium, the entire stadium, white handkerchiefs just come out. We're chanting in the same thing. The drums are playing, the band is playing. I'm like, what is happening?
What am I seeing?
Yeah, what is going on?
Noise. Okay, so what happened is that the performance of that particular matador with that particular bull was so well received that people, instead of simply clapping out of respect or maybe booing if the performance has not been good, or just keeping rather quiet about the performance and just let it pass and on to the next one, when they jump in unison out of excitement, like the situation you are describing, that means that they wanted to give a trophy to the matador. The way you ask for the trophy is you pull out a white handkerchief after the performance is done and you wave it in the air. And if the person who acts as the president of the event, who is sitting somewhere in the arena, if he sees that there is a reasonable amount of people demanding it, and by that theory says it's 50 plus 1, practice says you need, at least 3/4 of the arena asking for it. In this case, it was probably,
If
let's say 90%.
The entire
right?
thing, yeah.
So he will probably just react, and he sits on a sort of a balcony corner in the arena, and he'll just throw in the white handkerchief himself, which is the first trophy. First trophy means you scored a goal, if you want to, if you wish. But the big thing is to be able to get 2 trophies in one performance. The difficult thing is also to get 2 trophies in one performance. The second trophy you can demand, so people could still be waving those handkerchiefs
it went on quite a long time.
Yes, after the president has given the green light and given his own white handkerchief, which means the first trophy has been conceded. And then you could still demand the second one, but it is the president who decides whether he should give it or not. So he plays a gatekeeping role that is interesting, because sometimes people may not be demanding the second trophy that hard, but he would still give it because he just thinks it was better than people are appreciating. Or maybe he thinks these people have been maybe got too excited, and that when you're watching the video back on replay, this will not really stand the test of time as well as maybe people think right now. So he could perhaps refrain from giving 1 or 2 trophies. The first one should be given out. But
who is this
mysterious person?
Yeah, who is this person?
Well, you take a course to be allowed to be a president. So you
take a course.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So you're essentially someone who is well versed on the matter.
Okay.
And but for example, I'm friends with the president of the Sevilla bullring. Well, there's 3 of them. They turn one day for each. So this goes on for like 15 days in a row in April. So he does Monday, and then he comes back on Thursday.
Full-time job?
No, not at all.
Okay.
He's a judge. That's where I was going. He's a judge. So he's a judge, but then another...
I think his full-time job is the judge?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And when he's out of trial, and normally the courts close at 3, 4, in his case, well, he has plenty of time to go back to the arena. But anyway, he asks for a free day when he's been the president. He takes a leave of absence and takes a pay cut to not be present when few times a year he has to do this, which is probably 6 or 7, in out of bullring that hosts, 21 events or so, which is Sevilla.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit more, but we're just rounding up numbers here.
Okay, but still, who decides who becomes president? Is it like a association or voting? Who picks the person?
If you have been cleared because you have taken this course,
sure,
then the regional authorities, the owners of the bullring, if it's private, or
you have private bullrings.
Yes, also? 50% of the second category bullrings are private. 1/3 of the first category bullrings are private. And then at the third category, you find, I wouldn't know, there's hundreds of private ones.
The Madrid stadium, is it private or public?
The Madrid one is public.
Okay.
It's owned by the regional government. But like almost all of the public ones, almost, or like 90% of them are run by companies. So the government doesn't really do direct management of the arena. Sure. They just open it up for tender. And for example, the one in Madrid is run by one of the largest tourism operators in the country. They went into the bullfighting industry because they saw the potential. They saw how much it drives tourism and visits and ticket sales. So they said to venture into the industry. And it's a joint venture with a traditional businessman who has run bull rings for ages. He's a Jewish immigrant from France who was a bullfighter in the 1950s or 60s and who then turned himself into a very successful businessman in bullfighting.
Okay, so the president decides if the second trophy is given. What is the second trophy?
The second trophy would be the clear recognition that what you have done is a work of art. The first of trophy would be, okay, that was good.
No,
But the second one would be, that is
literally.
great.
Well, okay, the first trophy was what? The handkerchief?
Yes. And the second one is also the handkerchiefs being pulled
Oh,
off. Yes.
but, okay, Paul, do you not get something?
Yes. You actually get a small cut of the bull's ear.
Of course.
Okay. So this is done right after the handkerchiefs are out. If the president concedes, then you would get the two trophies, which you would hold in the air as.
But both trophies are the bull's ear cut?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And there could be a third trophy still. If that was extremely good, the tail could be cut as well.
The entire tail?
Well, no.
No.
You just do a small portion of it.
Okay, hold on.
Same with the ear. You don't just butcher an
Right.
entire. It's just a small corner of the ear.
Okay, hold on. Suppose
It doesn't look as bad as it sounds.
I'm not saying it sounds bad.
No, but it does sound bad when I say it. It looks like you have something black in your hands. Just some.
No, I get
hairy,
that. But
fuzzy
I'm
black
curious.
thing.
When the matador, that's the correct term,
Yes,
right?
yes.
What does he do with the trophies of the ear after the match?
Well, the normal thing you do is you just throw it to a kid that is asking for it
throw
in the
to a
stands.
kid.
Okay. So there's a kid that's just jumping up in the stands and just throw it to him. As a kid,
Yeah.
I recall being thrown a few of those back in the day. And then your mom gets rid of it as soon as she can because
Okay.
that can smell
Yeah.
if you leave it there for more than a few hours. But that's what you do. Or sometimes you get rid of it. It's not very relevant. What you do is you do take a victory lap around the bull ring in which all sorts of things are thrown
I
at you.
saw that happen also.
Yeah. So you get thrown like cigars, you get thrown wine, so that people want to see you drinking that wine and celebrating. You get thrown hats. You're supposed to just kiss the hat and send it back, or at least in a way of send it back with respect and charm. You can get thrown, also have Spanish flags or flags from any. You could try and bring the Barbadian flag for all I care, because like people do.
I think
get
that
thrown.
would be the most random thing to throw.
Well, absolutely. But it'd be fun too. But you can get thrown all sorts of flags. They'll just kiss the flag and send it back up, throw it back in the stands. What's interesting here is that you're sitting, let's say, I'm in row 10, and I may throw my Panama hat. We're going over the history before.
Anytime.
I may throw my Panama hat, and that piece is costly. But I'll just throw it, and then he'll find it, and he'll just send it back, and it will find its way back to me. So I've seen one thing you do that's funny. Sometimes they they don't throw them because it's a live animal, but they just bring down a rooster for the matador. There's a way of signaling, okay, you're so good that you deserve the cock, not just the chicken, the cock, right? So when the rooster is brought down to the arena,
Sure.
you're supposed to be able to know how to pick it up. That roosters need to be picked up, from their legs and held in a way that is harmonic. That is how you do with the fighting roosters. That is a tradition in some countries in the Caribbean, Latin America, and so on. So you do that too here, and the rooster may escape from you, which leads into some funny games of like the matador having to have his team and squad go and chase the rooster for him, because important, the matador will not bend down to pick up anything. The matador will not be chasing the rooster. The matador will be just standing up the whole time and looking good. His squad will have to do the heavy lifting.
Okay, so again, this is all the pageantry. We haven't even discussed the actual fight. Actually, before I go there, one of the stereotypes of the matador, at least I've had, and I don't even know why I have this, but I spoke to some friends, and they also have the same stereotype. Also, they're usually very good-looking, attractive people, and they're very fit. That is not true, however, usually. I don't know if you know why this stereotype exists in like Western American countries, where there's a super like good-looking guy that's the matador, very fit, younger side. That is the stereotype of the perfect matador.
Yeah, I think the matador is a myth. He's an icon. He is the hero in the story. And he's dressed up in such beautiful dresses that very often they get there is a lot of almost all the haute couture designer brands and houses have drawn inspiration from bullfighting dresses. That is something that is also apparent in pop culture. You see it through the ages. I mean, Madonna has done some bullfighting themed video clips for crying out loud. So there's a lot of that in pop culture and in fashion as well. So I think the dressing helps, the mythology around you helps, but you may or may not be good looking. That's at the end of the day, that's true. I would argue that a good looking guy may have some more possibilities of doing well. And we know of some bullfighters who have been known to be icons among both the female crowd and the gray crowd. Jose Maria Manzanares, for example, he's a Dolce & Gabbana model too, beyond being a bullfighter, and ladies love him. What can I say? And the gay men too. So,
I saw one recently, and I don't know if he retired. It was Cayetano.
Yeah, I was about to name drop him. Yeah, Cayetano is also, he just retired, and he's a dynastic matador. So is Manzanares, by the way. These two are sons of bullfighters. And Cayetano, that's my son's name, by the way. But Cayetano, this bullfighter, and his brother, also being typical good-looking guys that have always been followed by the gossip press, and the people want to know who they're dating and whatnot.
Yeah. That's actually a very good point you brought up. The dynamic behind the matador is like a pop star in Spain, essentially.
Well, there is too recently, because this has always drawn inspiration, go back to Goya or Velázquez or Picasso in the 20th century. And there is a lot of paintings that revolve around bullfighting. But recently, there has been different creations. One of them is a documentary film by Albert Serra, an award-winning director. And this film has been labeled the best film of the year in many film festivals outside of Spain. Okay, it's won awards in Japan, in the US, in France. The LA critics just named it the best film of the year. So that's quite a big achievement. The film's name is Afternoons of Solitude. And then there is also a new show. Then there is this TV show that is available on Disney Plus that was taped locally in Spain. The name of the show is La Suerte, which translates for luck. But I don't know exactly what title they gave this in English. I was trying to work out the name, but I don't know which one they gave it. But it's called La Suerte. It's available in Disney Plus. If you can find that one, those two I would recommend. They're agnostic on the matter because Afternoons of Solitude is a very strong and interesting and intimate look at bullfighting from the lens of the main star of the bullfighting circuit right now, which is a Peruvian matador, who many people would consider also to be kind of an icon in terms of his good looks and his class, Andrés Rocarrey. So Afternoons of Solitude, that's the film. And then La Suerte is kind of an interesting, very empathic tale of someone who is not much of a bullfighting aficionado. And he doesn't really become one through the series, but he at least understands and grows to respect the culture. Even the actors themselves were anti-bullfighting activists, which makes for a fun situation in which you have an anti-bullfighting actor who his full-time job is portraying a bullfighter, and the show is actually pretty good. And well-researched, by the way. There's you know how these things are, sometimes how bullfighting is portrayed. You come across things that would never happen in a bullfighting arena. This show is very well-researched, very well put together.
Did you name your son after the bullfighter?
No.
No. Okay.
But then I get asked this a lot because people know of my passion for bullfighting, but it's not the case. But in my eyes, it doesn't hurt that there is a good-looking, famous bullfighter name like you. Sometimes he gets, your name is Cayetano, like the bullfighter.
Right.
And he does get that sometimes. But there's only 30,000 Cayetanos in Spain, so there's not that many. And the average age for them is 51, so it's an old person's name. And there is some family tradition behind the name, so that's why we went for it.
Okay. Interesting. I first heard, similar. I know a Cayetana.
Yeah.
I know that one, the politician.
Former spokesperson for the Popular Party.
Right.
Argentinian historian based in Spain for many years now. A former member, I don't know if she's still of the nobility by way of marriage. And a very, very remarkable lady in Spanish politics who has agreed to be on the podcast. So she will be with us sometime in the future. Her busy schedule and our 4-month break has not helped.
Yeah.
But that's been agreed. And she'll be there. And she is a bullfighting aficionado.
Of course.
and has written extensively on the matter. So a lot of people that you come across in the intellectual sphere in Spain, they may not be speaking about bullfighting all the time, but they are.
Actually, to double down on that point, I know of Cayetano, the bullfighter, because of his podcast with Esperanza.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He did. He recorded a podcast with the former governor of Madrid.
Yeah.
And let's just tell it how it is, okay? We've been on a break because this nice studio where we used to record has some technical issues, and then they lost an episode that we had taped with Esperanza Aguirre, the former governor of Madrid, which was gold. Mm-hmm. And that is a lost tape now, which we are obviously not very happy about. But she will be on the podcast. She has agreed to come back and re-record what we did. And Esperanza hosted. She's the former governor of Madrid, our Margaret Thatcher, to simplify things. And she hosted an interview with Cayetano, which apparently that's how you met the guy. He attended the think tank launch of Atenea, which is a new think tank based in Madrid, but operating all over Spain by a former member of Vox, the alt-right party in Spain, who was kind of the most classical liberal members of the party. And these days he's more closer to PP. And when he launched Atenea, Cayetano was in attendance. So
that's surprising.
Start name dropping Cayetano and you can... I mean, his family is everything in Spanish pop culture. So don't even let's just not get started on that, because we could speak of the father, the mother, the step-grandmother, the brother, the step-brothers. There's a lot of conversation that belongs more in the gossip podcasts.
Sure. Okay, so I want to learn something now about the actual fighting.
You know why we fight bulls?
No.
Because I think that's the question at the end of the day. And if you go back 20 millenniums in time...
Okay, hold on. This is the problem, right?
Yes.
I never ask that question because I always feel I'm getting some bullshit answer.
Okay.
Oh, like, for example.
Okay.
This documentary you sent me.
Yes.
They're going back to the Roman times and the cave paintings.
Yes.
Okay, sure, that could be true. I'm not saying it's false definitively, but I think I'm like, it feels like you're reaching really hard to tie into this story.
Oh, no. I think those theories make a lot of sense. I will break it down to you. I think one of the main topics of man and humankind at the end of the day is our relationship with nature. And we have been able to tame the dangers of nature, not just animals, but the entire environment, the ecosystem around us, through cities and through our civilizations. But if you go down back to the times when we were living in the caves, you find the earliest depictions of the relationship of men with bulls, because you see paintings of bulls and paintings of men fighting bulls. So in a way, bulls, whenever you could find them, have always symbolized this animal that is dangerous by definition because of its horns and because it doesn't necessarily have a behavior that you can model that easily, that you can domesticate that easy. So at its core, this tradition just positions you in that specific place in which, okay, man has to deal with nature. How do we order that? Who is to take control of the situation? And how do we explain this and position this in our societies? So within the tales and rituals that we have built through the years, bullfighting is a Mediterranean tradition that can be traced back to the Greek polis and the Greek states, for example, in the Isle of Crete, that's where the myth of the Minotaur comes from. But all the paintings also depict, you can find this in the Palace of Knossos in the island of Crete. You can see depictions of bullfights that were happening millenniums ago, hundreds and hundreds of years before Christ. That idea of playing with the bull, circling around the bull, and being able to tame or surpass the strength of the bull has always been there. Now, coming into the Iberian Peninsula, into the Middle Ages, that had culminated into a tradition that was held by the nobility and those training for war, which would ride horses around the most dangerous bulls to train their horses. So the bull was an animal you used to sort of train yourself for war, for a situation in which the way in which you moved your horse around your opponent would be key to surviving. But at some point in these festivities, which happened whenever the patron saint of the city or whenever a wedding had taken place among members of the nobility and whatnot, but someone at some point in the 16th, 17th century started to do it on its feet and not from the horse. So although you still do bullfighting while sitting on a horse, which you have seen to take place in Madrid, and which takes place it's a smaller side of bullfighting in Spain, but it's the key side of bullfighting in Portugal, where this transition did never happen. So it moved away from being a nobility based tradition of training your horses around bulls to a more popular tradition of having someone go down and approach the bull with that red cape that we call muleta. And that's more or less the long story of millennium-old tradition of men dealing with bulls in a constructive or a destructive way too. And putting some order in it is the bullfighting tradition, which comes from the Enlightenment and essentially codifies the fight the bull sort of approach into a spectacle. And these are the years wherein we codify theater into what it is today. We codify literature into what it is today. You have the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. And in bullfighting, you have the same. You have the beginning, the middle, and the end of each performance. And it is all codified with the idea of having your own place for it, like Shakespeare would argue with the need for a theater. Well, that's the bullring, and those were built 200 years ago in many cases. That's why they're not that comfortable. And that's the long story short.
The actual bullfighting now. One thing I was not prepared for was the number of people in the ring for the bullfight. Because again, I thought it was the matador and the bull. That's
End
it.
of story.
End of story.
Yeah.
But no, that's not even really close to being true. They're like, what, 8, 10 people? I don't know.
There's 5 people will... But at some point, there could even be more people in the bull ring. So the bull comes out. The bull is bred for like 4 or 5 years. And they live like completely... They're left on their own. These are not farms where you just stable the animals or whatever. They're left to be grown as wild as possible. And their genetics have been chosen because both the mom has been tested at some point. She has been shown the cape at a small bull ring in the countryside at the farm. And her behavior, her aggression has been tested and measured. And then the father, the stallion that has been crossed with that cow, has been a bull that has been so remarkably good that his life was pardoned in the arena, which doesn't happen often. And when it does, you need to make sure that it's for genetic reasons. When the bull is just so good that you think, well, it'd be such a waste to get rid of this bull. Mind you, these days with technology, you can still get some semen out of the bull after it's been killed. So sometimes you do that right after the kill. If maybe the people didn't ask for it, but you do want to keep that genetic line.
Are there any people working on bull cloning instead of breeding?
There has been bull cloning, but the consensus is that the genetics are quite advanced these days so that you're better off using big data aggregation of the genetics. And also artificial intelligence is starting to be used in some farms to suggest the crossings. But this is just suggestions up until this point. A human still making the call. What do you base this from? Okay, the way the cow is charging at the cape seems to be very classy. And that bull that I was pardoned a few years ago was also very classy in the way it moved. It just moved elegantly in a rather predictable manner, harmonic manner. I like that bull with that cow in my head. So put them together. And the theory is that, okay, the resulting calves will be extremely good.
Okay, so about the actual people now.
So the bull is out.
The bull camp. Yes.
And you'll see the matador with a pink cape.
Actually, hold on. I feel the bull does not come out from the same gate all the time. Right.
No, it does. It does. Yes.
Okay.
They are stabled for the bullfight, so they arrive at the bullfight one day before, at the bull ring one day before, and then they will be released one by one, all 6 of them, but they're not held in the same rooms because they can fight. They fight among themselves. So you can put them together for a while and they'll be fine. And when they arrive, they all stay together for a little while, for a few hours, but then you start putting them into separate areas so that they do not hang out too much, because then when the fighting happens, so when the bull comes out, his weight will be in 500 kilograms more, in fact, 550 kilograms or so, which in pounds, we're speaking, 1,100.
1,200, yeah.
And it should be well presented, as we call it, look well. It should look well. When you see people protesting or using the white handkerchief right at the beginning is because they don't like how the bull is looking. They think it's not big enough or not strong enough or something like this. So the bull can be sent back. So then the matador will come out with a...
Is it the president that sends back the bull? Who sends back the bull?
And he has assessment from a veterinary. A vet will be there to assess whether, okay, these folks get it right. The bull is limping or the bull is not behaving as aggressively. So we might as well just send it back. The business manager of the arena doesn't want the bulls being sent back because each bull costs 8,000 euros or so.
Okay, hold on. When the bull is sent back, what happens to the bull?
A substitute bull comes in. Just like in soccer, right? You change the play, or in NFL or in any other sport, right? Basketball. You bring out another one.
Okay.
They're all named, by the way, and their name comes from their mother. So
Okay.
if their mom is called, for example, Dahlia, like the flower, then the bull will be called Dahlia as well, even if
So
it sounds like a girl's name.
it does.
You do use a masculine. So if the mom's name is, for example, I don't know, like guapa, which means handsome, but for a woman, you would call the son coming out guapo. You do style it
See.
as a man, but sometimes there's no way to translate.
Okay, but then if the bull is sent back,
Yes.
when it is sent back, does it die? What do you do?
Normally, the owner of the farm will pick up the bull and he will use it for a running of the bulls type of event.
Have you been to one of those, by the way?
Okay, yes, I have attended, but it's not my thing. It's not my cup of tea.
Okay.
And there is kind of like those who like the bull fight in the arena type of thing are normally not that big fans of the bull in the streets, sort of running.
I actually really want to go, not in the street, but maybe look at like a balcony on the street.
Please don't do that
Yeah,
because
Yeah,
I need a partner for a podcast,
I'm
man.
not gonna go in the street. I want to just be by the balcony and see the bulls
Yeah.
going down the street.
Yeah.
I also really want to go to, what's that called?
By the way, there's 20,000 of those events in Spain.
Oh, really?
So Pamplona is
like one.
no, Pamplona is the what you see in Pamplona, the running of the
Yeah.
bulls that fascinated Hemingway. That's the cream of the crop for that
Okay.
sort of bullfighting
Okay.
tradition.
Okay.
But those bulls then are placed in the bull ring, and then on that afternoon they will be used in a proper bullfight.
Oh, so the same bulls.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but if a bull is rejected, well, if it's injured, I think the bull would probably get sacrificed. But if it's not injured, it's just that people didn't like the bull, then you can repurpose the bull's use. But it will not be used in another bullfight. It cannot be reused.
What's that thing called in Valencia? It's called Tomatillo?
Tomatina.
Tomatina.
Yeah.
The tomato festival.
Yeah, there's a crazy place where people just throw tomatoes
I've
at
been
each
to
other.
that.
I don't think I will ever attend it.
Really?
Yeah.
It seems fun.
Okay.
It
Interesting.
seems fun, yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. I'll entertain Tomatina.
Yeah.
At some
It
point.
seems fun. Okay. We should do that.
I didn't know you were the type to get thrown like tomatoes in your face.
Why not?
Okay. Good.
Okay. The bull comes out. The Mahador. Also, yes, you mentioned it. The
I'm sent
pink-
from Bach Festival to Tomatina, you know. But it's nice that you need to mingle.
culture.
Yeah, it's culture.
So the pink cape.
Yeah.
Again, I've never seen a pink cape until that moment.
There is an elephant in the room. I'm sitting here with a gay man like you are. And some people have theorized about, okay, these folks are in really tight ties.
Yeah.
With very flashy clothes that
Indeed.
have like even crystals or jewelry in it. And he's wearing a hat that resembles a women's hat from the 19th century. And he's wearing a pink cape. So what's up with that? It is true that in the...
Also, the shoes are odd.
Yeah, well, the shoes, you're right. The shoes, which are also called manoletinas, are what women use here in the spring. A lot of women wear those type of shoes. That connection, there's some elements, a lot of, well, you would think, what's up with that? Well, in the 19th century, not in the 19th century, I apologize. In the Middle Ages, many of the festivities where this clothing began to be developed happened around weddings. And there was this idea that you need to draw from the blood of the animal to symbolize the more masculine side of the bullfighter. So you come in with a more feminine side, you execute a more feminine or less raw type of performance, but eventually you kill the bull. And by the time you're killing the bull, you're using a red cape, not a pink one. You have been disposed of your hat, so you're no longer looking like you have that one, and you're using your brute force in the end when you're positioning the sword and going for the kill, and your suit may be drenched in blood, or at least partially had some sprinkles of blood in it. And Julian J. Pitt Rivers, who was a very famous anthropologist, one theorized about how this was sort of the idea of using the blood of the bull as a ritual to project the evolution of femininity and masculinity and the size of femininity and masculinity. And there are some merits to that argument because the fact that it was held around weddings, right after you get wedded, but before your wedding night, the fact that you need to use some of the blood of the dead bull in the newlywed wife's dress to sort of give the fertility, and the fact that when we just staying away from bullfighting, bulls are related to strength, development. In India, in Wall Street, what do you do? What do you do with a Wall Street bull? You touch its genitals, right? There are some elements of that, and bullfighting is not away from that tradition. So, yeah, it is a pink cape.
Now the bull comes out, the pink cape is out,
Yes.
and now there are these other men in the bull in the ring,
Yes.
stabbing the bull in its back with some daggers.
Okay. Before that happens, you are supposed to slow the bull down. So just simply using the pink cape, you're supposed to make that animal that is, like we said, more than 1,000 pounds of weight and just charging at you all the time. You're supposed to just wave your cape in a way that slows the bull's movement down and eventually stops him, right? So once that's happened, someone will come out riding a horse and he will be...
I forgot the horse. The
Yes.
horse is also covered in armor.
Yes, the horse is extremely well protected, so no accident ever happens with a horse. The picador, that's the term, which I've heard in English being referenced to sometimes. The picador is the helper to the bullfighter that is on top of the horse. But back when bullfighting was simply done by horse, they were the main stars of the show. Then when it started to be done by feet, then it's when their role became secondary. So what you do is you let the bull position far away from the horse so that the horse is charged at by the bull, and the horse will not be hurt because he is protected. But while he's charging at the horse, he will be spiked with this harpoon that is held by the picador. And that will create a wound
Right.
that will test the animal's strength. As in, okay, when an animal gets hit like that, it can do two things. It can fight back or it can run away. Now, what you see in the arena, 70% of the time is that the bull fights back. Should it not fight back, then that bull would eventually probably be sent away in a few minutes. That would be a warning sign. The bull is not charging back at the harpoon, it's just refraining away from it. So those harpoons have the size of a pen, right? The spike that goes into the bull. So it will create a wound, and there's no sugarcoating around that. And there shouldn't be an issue around that because we are in a tradition that celebrates that you master nature and you master the animal's aggressiveness by its domination and eventual death. So it's an anthropological point of view that is very humanistic in the sense that, okay, I have a responsibility to treat this animal in a certain way, and I shall be respectful of the rules and laws that have been codified. I shall do this as beautifully and as honorably as I can, but I also shall take his life because at the end of the day, that is the topic that we're trying to evoke here. The idea that men will prevail over nature if society is created and brokered by men. In the religious example, here the role of the matador is similar to the priest at church that is channeling the gods and conveying them to the audience. Well, he's channeling that idea of men as the entity that puts order in nature, and he's doing that with a codified way. Like I said, no sugarcoating that the injury will happen. However, I do want to point out two things. One thing, the amount of blood that is lost by the bull, although it would be very large for a regular human being like me, I only weigh 60 kilograms. So, of course, if I was to lose the amount of blood that a bull loses, that would be something. If it was a bull boxing fight, the fight would be stopped fairly easy if that amount of blood was lost. However, we are speaking of a different animal. This animal is in reality 1,200 pounds big. So the blood that will come out, although large for the quantities that we're used to seeing among humans, is not that large for the size of the animal. And in fact, it's comparable in terms of the percentage of blood loss that is lost whenever we take a large blood sample. And the other thing I wanted to point out is that although that injury happens, and some other injuries can happen as well, if you just leave that bull with a little antibiotic, the bull will recover himself in 24 hours with no need for any extra attention. Just get rid of the blood, clear the wound a little bit, but that's it. My point with this is that when you pardon a bull, the bull is up and running in, just one day, a couple of days without any need for surgery. So my point being is that, yes, there is that sort of injury that happens when you're in combat, just like in MMA or in boxing or anything. But this will not stop the bull from fighting back. And these are not deadly wounds. The only deadly thing that will be used in the bullfight, and that is once you use it, there's no coming back, is the sword.
So when after the picador does this with the harpoon, there's these guys that run up towards the bull.
That's when you see a lot of people moving in the bull ring. So you could see...
And the bull goes towards it. They have this little wall that they run behind and the bull comes towards it.
Exactly.
But they have no cape.
So it's just no cape for them.
Yeah.
They get little harpoons in their hands and they do a similar...
With colors on them.
Yes,
colors.
Spanish flag or the local flag on the... These are called harpoons. And when the bull charges at them at the banderilleros, they will use them just to position them again in the bull's back. But this time time they are on their feet. The bull is charging at them. So there is only a very small room for maneuver. You have to position yourself and slightly modify your position as the bull is coming at you to just be able to get that angle.
Why are they doing that?
Because now that we've tested the strength with a horse, we want to test the movement. So we're once again testing strength by way of using the harpoons, but we're doing this by running around the bull and having the bull run and come charging at us as a way to, okay, the bull is charging and the bull is moving. That means that the bull is ready. It can move and it shall not be sent back. So in a way, it's a test of strength that is happening before our own very eyes. If the bull pulls through, which happened, I believe, in all 6 of them that you saw, then no bull has been sent back and we're good to go.
So again, this is also a thing that, again, I didn't know about this pre-matador part. Again, all I see on TV and the cartoons is the bull and the matador. Okay, so the matador, essentially after this few rounds of this helper dagger stabbing, the matador then steps in, kind of goes back to the center from the edges, back to the center, and
now he's alone again.
Does he have the red cape now? I don't remember.
He switched the cape from the
right.
pink one, which is very subtle in its movement, to the red one, which is a bit more rigid. He's carrying a sword now, although he will not use it until the end, but he will be carrying that sword, and he will get rid of the hat in most cases.
So now, this is the part, obviously, this is the most subtle part, in the sense that the maneuvers that the matador is doing to force the bull to maneuver, I saw a very stark difference between, I think it was the first and the second, or was it the second and third? I forget the order. But the first one matador was able to really, I can see it firsthand, was able to really control the movement of the bull, almost like if he's playing an instrument. Where the other guy, who I think was younger, it was almost like a much more of a sport activity going on, where he's not really getting things done properly, which we'll come to in the killing part. But what are they trying to do when they're having the cape and then trying to do different maneuvers and bypass me, go in a circle? Is there a particular thing they're aiming for, or are they just making up as they go?
Well, no animal charges at you the same. They're all different. And if you could train them, you would know what you're walking into. So if I could just, like you and I have a meeting next week in the bullring, so come here, little guy or big guy, and let's get you trained properly. Well, then that would be maybe a setup that would just leave everything a lot more predictable. But this is not like that. These animals are essentially out in the wild for 4 or 5 years. And when they are in the arena, and they are willing to fight because they have gone through these first 2/3 of the bullfight, which are more of a test of strength than anything else, although some artistic elements are in it. But these are more about, let's see what the animal that we have here, what it can do, what it can't do, So now that I'm alone with this animal, what I will do is I will see, when he charges at me, does he do that with his horns looking up to the air, looking up to the sky? So I shall not lower my cape too much because he's not lowering his head at all. Do I try to lower my red cape just because he does seem to obey a little bit of my commands? So therefore, I'm trying to use my cape as a way of positioning the way he charges at me lower. Does he charge close to me or away from me? Can I get closer to him without getting gored? How much am I risking tragedy here? Beyond the fact that, of course, I'm risking tragedy all the time. But the predictability within his unpredictability, what do I sense? You have to make this up on the fly. I have been in front of fighting cows, not fighting bulls.
But hold on.
And let me tell you, they change. One of them may be charging very close to you. I was gored once in my knee because of that. One of them may be charging very far away. The way you position yourself and the way you're trying to get those attempts and charges of the bull closer to you are very anarchic. And if you can put order into that, kudos to you, you will get recognized for that.
But I'm trying to figure out what they're trying to gain from different things. So again, for example, I'm seeing in my head now where on one instance, the matador is getting the bull to pass behind his back. And another time, he's getting the bull to go the other side of him. Is there a particular thing they're aiming for by the bull passages?
Yes, the harmony that you're trying to create in that order. That would be the goal. Now, how do you create that harmony? Each bull is different. In some cases, the best way of producing something remarkable with the bull, as you're improvising there, It's to just showcase its fieriness. So you will have the bull charge at you while your cape is behind your back. Or you will sit down, well, not sit down, but just be on your knees as you're doing it. Or you will try to circle the animal to do a full circle around you.
Yeah.
That would be the more flashy type of approach.
Mm-hmm.
But you need the bull to have that sort of conditioning, because you cannot pretend that a bull that does not have that sort of charge will allow you to do that. You would be exposing yourself to almost a guaranteed gore if you don't understand what sort of behavior the bull has. So you have to watch a lot of bullfights to fully understand that there's different ways of structuring the performance. But at the end of the day, one of them would be more flashy, one of them would be more artistic, and one of them would be more technical.
What counts in these categories? What counts as artistic?
Well, you judge a work of art for what it can convey in terms of emotion. The emotion will still be very similar. The same crowd that stands up for a very technical performance can stand out for a very flashy one. With a flashy one, what you're trying to do is push the limits of what you think is rational in terms of the space that you're occupying. You're trying to get as close as possible and to do the riskiest possible moves. But here, what you're trying to do is more of the Greek tradition that is reflected in the paintings of, okay, if the bull will gore me on X, I will position myself at X minus 1. So it will be as close as possible as I can. If I'm doing it artistically, I will pull out the many different ways in which I can move the cape around the animal, which there's many, and many, they're very rich. And very few can do those, to be honest. Morante was a master of that.
Why is that?
Because it requires a lot of technique, a lot of ability to be in a very close. You need the best of both worlds. And most of them are technicians. Some of them are fiery and flashy and what you see is very remarkable in terms of the strength that it takes to position yourself in such a difficult place. But the artistic side is very difficult to pull out. Also, you need a bull that is somewhat complacent with that sort of behavior, because sometimes you will be just spinning the cape around, not even for the bull, but rather for the audience. So you need to have a bull that maybe stops down every now and then and is not just charging all the time. Not easy. And that's why when you measure with the statistics, I produce the statistics for bullfighting every now and then. When you measure the success of these artistic bullfighters, their success rate is much lower than that of the flashy ones.
When you're looking, or not looking, but when you're in the ring watching the bullfight, what do you want to see?
What I want to see, overall speaking, is a bull selection that through the entire afternoon makes sense. That is the first and foremost importance that I have. So each farm is different. Some of them may be known for being fiery, complicated bulls. When I'm going to watch that farm, I want the bulls to be like that. Extremely unpredictable, extremely difficult, hard to pull, etc. If I'm watching that sort of bull, because that's the farm that has been selected for that afternoon, then the matador that I'm seeing, I'm not expecting any artistic things. I'm just expecting technique, survival. Okay. So those folks will be in survival mode. Okay. If the farm that has been selected, the name of the farmer is highlighted a bit smaller than the matadors, but almost as big, because that's the other side of, you have the matador, but you have the bull. So the farmer's role here is very important. He selects which bulls come, and he selects genetically which crosses he has in his farm. That behavior that he hopes to reflect in the bull ring, that is very important. So the behavior of the bull, that is something that I'm really interested about. And then knowing which matadors I have, I will know what to expect, hopefully. So I will hope that each of them stays true to their concept. So if it's the Peruvian one that is very trendy these days, or a woman who is making a lot of waves, Olga Casado, she's become extremely popular in the last year. And if it was her or him, I would expect something risky, something that is flashy, and something that looks coherent, the way in which you structure each single pass to make up a single performance.
When does the matador decide to end the bullfight? When does the sword get pulled out?
If you listened throughout the afternoon, there was probably at least one horn that played.
Yes, I've heard. Yes, that's true.
So there's a horn or a trumpet, depends on the arena, that is played once 10 minutes have elapsed. And once that's happened, you have 5 minutes to get rid of the bull, or the bull will be sent back.
Who decides when to blow the horn?
The president is keeping time. So he will pull out a white handkerchief that few people will notice, but the guy with the horn and the trumpet, his sole job is to just be looking at the president. Or maybe he has a watch and he knows that 7-8 minutes in, he needs to start looking at the president. And once that handkerchief comes out in the balcony, Then he plays the horn just once. It's just a random play of horn. You try to do it not as the bull is charging, but rather when the bull has stopped for a few seconds so that the matador is not distracted or the people are not distracted or the music isn't playing. So you do wait for the proper seconds. So it's not 10 seconds, 10 minutes, and you measure that millimetrically, but around 10 minutes. And then that's more the signal of, okay, you've extended your welcome too much. So it's time to go and grab the sword, 10 minutes in. If you're smart, you know how to, do this, 50, 60 times a year, every year, plus you train in the countryside and you've watched this your whole life, you have a sense of what is a well-structured performance, final, like we call them, and that would be 7-8 minutes. You shouldn't go all the way up. Some of them are notorious for going long, and some of them are legendary. So it's not as if, a guy that gets blown the horn, that means that he's not getting any trophies. It's not necessarily like that. But you don't want long if it's not good.
Now, the sword is unsheathed, and it's like hidden behind the cape or hidden in the cape.
Yes, he uses the sword to extend the cape and to create a sort of a square-looking type of target for the bull. But when he pulls out the sword from there, then the bull just will see two things in front of him. He will see a man and he will see a cape. And that man, in that point, is holding a sword. He will try and stop everything, and there will be this total silence.
Oh, yes. You brought that up. I was shocked.
I'm getting goosebumps talking about that silence.
I was shocked how silent that arena got. It literally reminded me of, anyway, going to a symphonic concert, and it's like, big, massive part of the symphony, and then it's a part that just goes so silent, and if the audience is perfectly silent, it is just perfection when a new chord starts playing. But it's so hard to get even a symphonic audience to go that silent. But in the bullring, they somehow managed to replicate that silence that not even some symphonic halls can do. I was just shocked.
That silence, I must admit that I'm getting goosebumps as I speak about it because it's such an interesting part of it. Because it shows that no one really attends a bullfight for the sake of seeing an animal get killed. Because quite frankly, if we wanted to see the animal killed, you would go to a slaughterhouse and you would see thousands and hundreds of them, right? Every day, every time, every minute. So that's not it. It's the perfect reflection of the respect and the honor that you give to all parties involved. The matador is about to just throw himself and essentially just almost collide with the bull. So a lot of very serious injuries can happen at this point. And of course, the bull is about to lose his life if everything goes according to plan. So you're giving respect to that situation and all parts involved in it. And once that's done, if the sword is properly positioned, the kill should be instant. The kill is probably going to drag itself for a few seconds, could be 30 seconds, could be 1 minute. And then if the sword has not been that effective, there could be a second attempt or a smaller sword that can be used that leads to an instant kill. But then it'll be over.
Yes.
And now it's the time for the silence, the boos that may happen, or the clapping, the handkerchiefs, the everything.
Yeah, the silence really, I forgot about that. That was just extreme. I couldn't believe 24,000 people. Again, keep saying, even some symphonic halls do not get that silent when you're supposed to be silent.
When the crowd is very hot and then suddenly needs to go quiet and the kill is done perfectly, the explosion of joy, and that reminds me of times we have not witness. It just brings me back to, the Roman years when the festivities were done in the Colosseum. That's how I envision those, big roar of a crowd. It's more than a goal. It's more than a touchdown. It's not that. It's a different thing because it's coming out from a lot of appreciation for the performance. It just went quiet. And then the kill, which is such a difficult and magical moment at the same time, that the crowd will just erupt. Yes. And then the handkerchiefs and...
I witnessed two versions of the kill. One perfect, the other quite bad. So this is, I remember this, the first one was quite bad and the second one was perfect. So I knew then the first one was bad based on the second one. I'll explain how. In the first instance, I think it was the first match, the younger guy. I think it was a younger guy.
Not a match, not a sport.
What term do you use?
We would go, I'm going with performance here in the podcast. I cannot convey this to an English-speaking audience. It's very difficult to speak about bullfighting in English.
Right.
Just because every single word is different from the normal Spanish language. Okay. There is a dictionary of bullfighting terms. Plus, many expressions in the Spanish language are derived from bullfighting. Many of them.
So what term in Spanish would you use for the thing that we call bullfighting?
Yeah, the tradition would be tauromaquia. The art would be tauromaquia. The event would be corrida de toros. And each performance would be called faena.
Faena.
Mm-hmm. Each faena. Faena is also, oh, what a situation I have with my life. Oh, the power went out. What a faena. So, like I said, like every single expression has made its way into the Spanish language. So we're trying our best, but I think we're doing all right. But yeah, not a match.
So the first performance,
yes,
the matador was not able to kill the bull.
Mm-hmm.
It got to a point where they had to bring out a secondary sword.
Yeah.
It was there on dying, but it wasn't really dead.
Mm.
And it took him a couple of times to even get to that point.
Yeah.
And had to bring the
smaller sword. Yeah.
And people were getting kind of anxious. Like, oh, I heard the mumbles.
Yeah.
Me, right?
And you could even hear boos or really angry crowds because you're supposed to, like, again, this is about the relationship of man with nature at its core. You do not despise nature, you admire nature, you relate to nature, you work with nature, you work around nature. So with these animals, what you want to do is, yes, you will kill them, but you will not kill them just, for the sake of killing them. So the problem is that when the kill has not been effective, quick, and just, properly done, then the crowds can get anxious. And what you saw was a good example of that. What happens when the kill wasn't effective enough? And obviously that can lead to the crowd, getting anxious or getting angry, or you could see some boos, or perhaps once the body of the bull has been taken away, which is dragged by horses, by a horse carriage drags the body away. Once that has happened, the matador probably gets booed. He can get booed as it's going on, or you can get silence and some groans of the crowd.
That's right.
But then once the bull has been taken out, then it's the time to judge the matador. So the handkerchiefs come out immediately if it was good. But if it was not, what you first do is you wait for the bull to be carried out, and you may clap for the bull or maybe boo the bull or just keep quiet to assess its performance. And when you see the report from the evening, you get the scores of sorts for both the bulls and the matadors. And then the judgment will come and will be harsh on you because of the poor killing. That sometimes it's sad because everything was going well and then you didn't manage to kill the bull.
So the second one, again, what made me realize the first one was not good. Because literally my first ever performance.
Yes.
So I thought, oh, well, it's sometimes hard to kill the bull. Okay, fine.
Yeah, and it is.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
The second one, this is actually when you had the big handkerchief thing happen and so on. The second one, because the matador, literally, it was one insertion of the sword on the first attempt, and literally the bull just collapsed.
Down, yeah, boom. Yeah, well, that's the theory. The practice is the animal is what it is. It is a bull. It is a difficult animal to deal with.
I was shocked how fast the bull collapsed after the sword was maintained. It's like it went poof, gone.
Yeah, again, that's how theory says it should be done. But it's a non-cooperative entity. It's your opponent in a way. It's your friend also in a way because you're building something together. But when the time comes and you're just charging at the bull and you're trying to position, that's where those two big horns, they don't make it any easy.
Yeah.
And many matadors have suffered very serious injuries. Now, these days, there is a mini hospital built into many of the arenas. That is why you don't see that many matadors get terminal injuries because whatever injury has happened can be dealt with almost immediately. There is a specialized surgeons that attend bullfights because they know what sort of wounds they may encounter. So that helps a lot instead of just having any surgeon pull up. And the treatment that can be done to you is just top notch. You don't need to be even taken out by ambulance to the hospital. Not to go down a rabbit hole, but Cayetano, who we mentioned before, lost his father as a result of a gore that Cayetano's brother suffered on a very similar gore. And he was just on the shelf for a few months. So Cayetano's dad in today's bullfighting, as opposed to 1980s bullfighting, would probably be alive.
Wow.
You know, if the horn hits you just a few centimeters this or that way, the story can be completely different. It just may damage an organ that cannot be put together again. But in theory, that story is very interesting because, and sad too, but because Cayetano's father died and his brother did not, and the gore was similar, that makes you think, right? So historically, many bullfighters died. These days, we have seen tragedies in the last 10 years. For example, Ivan Fandino and Victor Barrio lost their lives. One of them, Ivan Fandino, was a very important bullfighter. He died in France. By the way, there's bullfighting in France, which is another rabbit hole we go down into, because there's bullfighting in France, Portugal, Mexico, Colombia, Ecuador, Venezuela, and Peru. I think I named every single country with a bullfighting tradition.
How often do the matadors die in the performance?
Well, I think there's two remarkable cases of death in the last decade, which is Ivan Fandino and Victor Barrio. But there have been other cases in Latin America of relatively unknown bullfighters that have also passed away. But what is more common is the goring, the injuries. Injuries are very serious. There's a bullfighter, Antonio Ferreira. He once came to record a TV show with me and a couple other panelists, and he was just very casually, he was late and he was very casual. You guys mind if I just get changed here in the catering room? Because we were late. He had showed up late. It wasn't his fault. It was a traffic jam. So, and we're like, yeah, sure, do it. And I mean, you don't mean to stare, but he's the matador undressing and dressing up again. And you could see the man has 50 different wounds and injuries in his body, which you can see.
Wow.
So, I mean, you peek, but you don't just stare. But sometimes I've been invited to see the matador be dressed, which is quite the silent ritual. It's almost him and his helper. And if you're invited to be in the room, you can be in the room, but you better just be a fly in the wall. Don't open your mouth. They're very quiet. They're normally praying or just silent.
Praying?
Yes. They set up their mini altar at each hotel. They pick up many superstitions too, so it's not just religion, but for example, I leave the lights on just so I know that I have to come back to the room and turn them back off. Little things like this. So when they dress up, they're just quiet. Just, okay, you can think of them, they have a lot of women, they have parties and flamenco and whatever. But at the same time, there's no festivities going on as you're driving to the arena. If you could be on those car rides to the arena, those are almost silent. You're trying to break the ice here and there just to say something so that it doesn't look as if you're going to a funeral, but they're essentially quiet the whole time through. And so this happens, and that's why the solemnity around it is real.
At the end of the performances, what usually happens? Because I left pretty quickly. Again, I don't know what's going on afterwards. So I left pretty quickly after things were done. It was surprisingly orderly. People were, giving back the cushions. They were throwing the garbage away, the empty wine cups and so on. And people were just deep in conversation about different things in the show. I can overhear the conversations. What do people do afterwards?
The concept I said before about how a day in which there is a bullfight should, in theory, be a day that completely revolves around the bullfight. That makes sense from what you saw. People would normally stay there and speak about what they have just witnessed, grab a drink in the arena, and just grab dinner afterwards. And even the food, the more traditionally Spanish food, is the type of food that will be served to the bullfighting aficionados. A bullfighting aficionado, let me tell you, you will eat your heart out with them. And in fact, I have come to learn a lot about Spain through my interest for bullfighting, because wine culture and food culture and just elements of the countryside of my country, I wouldn't know if it wasn't for bullfighting. I wasn't a bullfighting aficionado until I turned 24, 25. So this doesn't, I did not breed this. I was not bred into the tradition. I had attended as a kid here and there, but I wasn't a fan. And quite honestly, when they decided to prohibit this in Barcelona, which was then later was overruled by the Constitutional Court. But so now it's fully legal to host it there. But I was living in the US as this was going on. I had just met my wife, who's from Ecuador, and her Bolivarian president also banned bullfighting in Quito. And it happened at the same time. And it just gave me this. And I was there in San Diego, in California. And of course, I couldn't attend a bullfight in the US, although there is some Portuguese bullfighting in some states, in Texas and so on, because of Portuguese colonies in California as well. But anyway, no real bullfighting really happens there. So I just decided, okay, I'm definitely going to a bullfight when I'm coming back, just because I can. These bastards are not taking that away from me. My freedom of choice is what I cared about. And then I actually came to love it. But it was more a matter of exercising a freedom that I feared at this point was being taken away.
What I find curious about the location of the plaza is, again, very common for Madrid. It's just downtown, essentially.
Yeah.
It's not out the blade.
But it was out when it was built.
Okay.
But the city has grown in the last 100 years. That's interesting. So many of these bull rings were located close to the downtown, but a bit further away. But cities have outgrown them. So many of them are, for today's standards, well located in the center areas.
So that's why it's such a weird feeling. So you essentially you leave this medieval looking, like very medieval looking building, and you just go to a very nice bar.
Yeah.
You go to a very nice restaurant.
Yeah.
And have dinner.
Well, some of us, when my favorite bullfighter had a very big triumph this last May, when he was able to achieve this, we carried away Morante de la Puebla from the bullring to the Wellington Hotel, which is located probably 2 kilometers away from the bullring. So here were these cars were forcibly stopping because we took over the road. And when I say we, I mean not just a couple of us. I mean hundreds of people doing an unplanned, completely out of the blue, spontaneous procession while we're carrying this guy on our shoulders, because that's how you carry them. When they're triumph, they're taken out of the arena up on somebody's shoulders, and there's this massive celebration. And we were doing this in the middle of a large city in a region with 7 million inhabitants, with cars and with streetlights and everything. And we just stopped traffic to bring Morante de la Puebla. And then we stayed down at the hotel until he came out to salute, and came out with a drink with champagne and give a toast on the balcony to everyone attending there. And that's when we claimed that he was indeed the Pope of bullfighting. And that was our Vatican. It is a contract that today, but you go, just log into social media and you start with, nothing is more modern, that social media and, that type of communication. And there is a lot of very good bullfighting photographers and videographers and accounts that are carrying bullfighting content. So it can blend with current day standards and traditions and habits. And by the way, there's like modern bullfights too, but they look like an arena for basketball.
Yeah, it seems to a very fortified community, at least in Madrid. That's what I've seen.
Well, you remember we hosted Javier Milei?
Yes.
It was in a bull ring. There's been 2 events run by the Instituto Juan de Mariana with him in Madrid. And the second one, the large one, not the Freedom Dinner where he was awarded our prize, took place at the bull ring. But that's a modern bull ring.
Modern bull ring.
It's slightly smaller than...
But is there
the
actual bull performances happening there?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, just this woman I was telling you, Olga Casado, she has become extreme. She's only 23 years old. She's become a new sensation for bullfighting.
From Spain?
She's from Spain. I think she has Venezuelan and Peruvian descent of some sort, but don't take my word. Or I don't know if it was that or just that her dad did migrate but then came back or something like that. But anyway, she's Spanish and looks like. She's a blonde bullfighter, and she's become very popular following a performance at this modern bull ring, not the old one, but rather the modern one.
Actually had bullfighting there.
Yes, they do. I mean, you can attend the One Republic concert like I did. Well, it was canceled, but I'm supposed to attend it a few months from now because they rescheduled. And then the same place gets turned into a bull ring. By the way, it looks like one because when you're in that arena, you realize it is a bull ring. The seating in that arena is a bit more complicated because it is a bull ring.
That's why.
But that one is comfortable.
Yes.
But it's not the same.
No.
It's not the same. You don't want to see bullfighting. You want to see it in a cathedral for bullfighting, not in a sports arena.
Yeah.
That's why it's not a sport.
Yes, it's a performance.
Yeah. Now we're in agreement. It just took us, 2 hours to be in agreement of that. Good.
Okay. On that point, I think we can close off the episode here on the bullfighting. We're definitely going to bring this up again. I think it'd be cool when we start to have video, actually go to like some bullfighting areas and just record some clips and stuff there for the podcast. And that'd be quite cool. So you could have some English guidance to some of these things happening in real time. That'd be quite fun.
I have been approached about doing a English broadcast of a bullfight by One Toro. You can log into One Toro, that spells for ONETORO.TV. You can sign up there. It's like your Netflix for bullfighting. But although it sounds that it may be just for Spaniards only, the people that are signed up come from 90 different countries. That's where you can watch bullfights on a paid platform that is available online. But yeah, we make sure to revisit this sometime because there's a lot of meat on this bone.
Oh, you also mentioned one thing to me. I think you mentioned that majority of the tickets in the bullfighting is actually done on season pass, and it's usually bought up years in advance.
Well, for the free marketeers listening, which I'm sure there's many of them, I played a role in a liberalization of the tickets sold to the bullfight in Madrid, which I advocated for and was eventually approved. No one was advocating for this until I started doing it. And then I was able to sway the Madrid government in this favor. And it's been a huge success and a huge lesson in economics. Because people were of the opinion that, okay, we need to control prices, because if we control prices, then people will still be fans of bullfighting because the prices will be cheap. However, when the prices are artificially low, you cannot really recruit the best bullfighters because you don't really have enough money on the box office to pay for a proper spectacle. So bullfighting was declining in Madrid in 2014, 15. And I was advocating, well, of course it is, because you're freezing prices and you're setting them artificially low. So what they did was, okay, let's free up the spur ticketing so that those prices can be set at whichever price we decide. And once we do, that will allow us to have more money in the box office, which will in turn will lead to more budget for the business that is running the arena, which means that they will be able to pull together the best of the best, which means that more people will want to come, even if it means paying more for their ticket. And we've been proven right, because now the attendance records are they're setting attendance records as we speak. The last few seasons have been immensely successful after the liberalization of the prices. So you want to fix your housing? Do the same thing we've done for rent prices. Do the same thing we've done for bullfighting tickets.
Yeah, it really goes to show that the idea that bullfighting is on decline is just false.
It's crazy, Of course, there's challenges, and I acknowledge that some people, of course, not only just dislike, but actually want to ban it. That happens, that's true. But it's constitutionally protected in Spain at this point. There was a broad consensus not to take proposal to discuss taking down the constitutional protection, not even a ban, but just taking out that protection, which was the first step for a future ban. And the socialist government, radical as it is, sided with the conservatives and with the radicals on the right and said no. And you know very well how hard it is to get the socialists to agree with the conservatives in Spain. And they absolutely did it on this front. That kind of shows you that it's in good health. The Portuguese tradition, which is done by horse instead of by feet, is alive and well. France is a great place to watch bullfighting. The southeast and the southwest of France have great programming. If you go to Arles and Nimes, you probably know Arles for Vincent van Gogh or Nimes for a very relevant city of the Roman years. You can watch bullfighting in a Roman amphitheater, in a Roman Colosseum. And then there's bullfighting in Mexico, Colombia, where there's some legal threats against it right now. Ecuador, where bullfighting was just recouped in the outskirts of Quito, which is great news for the folks there. Peru, which has a massive bullfighting industry. And then Venezuela, where bullfighting has survived socialism. There's few things that can survive socialism, so bullfighting has.
Diego, thank you. And we will see each other on the next episode.
Yes.